Good evening, everyone. My name is Tommy Lackey, and I want to welcome everybody to this week's version of the Power Investing Sector Drilldown, where we cover a new sector each week and go all the way down to the subsectors and look for ETFs and individual securities that might be worth putting on our radar. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at kind of how you can find it on the website. If you see here on the Power Investing website, you can go over to the Strength and Training menu tab, and then under there the PowerPoints menu tab. And if you click on that, you'll see that these will be listed as latest post week by week. Last week information technology, before that materials, and I haven't posted the older ones just yet. So you can always find these here, or you can come down to the bottom of any page and sign up for the email so that anytime I post these, you can get an email letting you know. And you'll have to click through to see the video, but it will give all the chart highlights in the email itself. Also, if you end up going to the YouTube page to watch the video, please like that page and subscribe if you'd like to get those videos as I continue to produce them weekly. Now, in last week's video, we covered the information technology sector, which performed pretty well, but did not end up taking the weekly gains list, and leading like we had the previous 3 weeks, but it had to happen at some point. So we just wanted to take a look back. There were some good opportunities there. And now what we're going to do this week is we're going to take a look at the industrial sector, which was kind of our second place last week, got pushed off a little bit. Before we do that, let's take a quick look at the universe and kind of how its chart's shaping up, getting here towards the highs, just like the S&P 500, broke into a new RSI bull range, and then the breadth just continues to gradually progress higher across the board with nice 238 new highs on Friday. This is good action for us to look for continued progression. We're also seeing nice growth here in the new 20-day highs, or 10-day highs, 21-day highs, and 63-day highs. I'm getting to the levels that we haven't seen since early spring, since the June area, when we started to see this sideways to pullback kind of cup-oriented move that we're working on. We start here by checking the sector ranking with the equal weight sector RS rankings. And you can see industrials here is right in the middle area, 64, just above technology. Really not much move from last week. And as we go down here looking into the equal weight subsector rankings, I've already sorted them by both sector and by relative strength ranking. You can see here the highest was industrial goods with an 80, and the lowest was machinery down here at the bottom with a 39 versus all the other subsectors. Not terrible performance, but kind of in the middle. So let's go ahead and move over to the sector page and start taking a look here. The equal weight sector, starting with the RSI chart, you can see that looking at this particular chart, we've already moved into an RSI bull range after being kind of stuffed at 60 a few times. Price hasn't moved well above, but it has closed at new highs for this move, and looks like it's trying to break out here. Now on the breadth, you can see down here it continues to improve, 71% now above the 20-day moving average, 64% above the 50, and 57% above the 200. So if it does want to move, has plenty of room. 46 new highs. Haven't seen that in a little more than a month, almost 2 months now. And the McClellan summation continues to move higher off of those lows. We move down here to the industrials relative comparative chart. As you can see in this particular chart, it is not exactly a screaming runaway right now, just kind of middling sideways. But with this breakout, it makes me wonder, with these new highs starting to perk up over here on all 3 categories, more than we've seen in months on many of these variations, I think it gives us an opportunity to see if we turn up here. Versus the small caps, it's already up near the highs. It's just the rest of them we're not seeing a lot of action just yet. On the rankings of the subsectors versus each other, we can see here that it's industrial goods is the highest versus transportation. Everybody's talking about transportation just now performing. I'll show you in a minute. Transportation's actually been the leader in the sector for a while and is now moved to the second spot as industrial goods move up towards the highs. Now, from the ETF standpoint, we have our rankings here. I have some that I have pulled aside so that we can take a quick look at them to kind of see what has been or looks like it could be performing. Now, realize here, things that have already broke out and been running, I'm not showing here. These are things that look to me like they have an opportunity to move higher from here. EXI is the first that we're looking at here. Again, up towards a breakout area on the weekly. RSI moving into a new bull range. PAVE, this is one that also right up near that same scenario. AAIR, same looking chart, almost inverse head and shoulders here. RSI right at the 60 level, moving higher on the both daily and weekly. Looks potentially very strong there. XLI, similar. All of these particular charts in the ETFs have almost the same look. The ones that are the broad base, right up near the highs, ready to break out. I'm not going to go through all of them. XTN, though, is one that's interesting. It's the transportation one. And look how much it had already ran, pulled back, and is now back up near those highs on the weekly. This is one that has been moving pretty well for a while now, a lot quicker or sooner than the IYT turned up. FITE is another one that's up here, a security ETF. Now, from things that look like they have some internal looking breakouts, the FIW, Water Trust, PSCI looks like it's kind of got a little bit of an internal base going up to where it could challenge these highs. Grid and ITA also have their own little tight consolidations below highs. ITA, the aerospace, as we talked about a few weeks back, looks like it's continuing to progress and about to try to move over this next potential level around 110. Sims also kind of an internal breakout. It's in this big weekly move, could be a head and shoulders, but it looks like it wants to find a low at the 45 EMA and move back up in an RSI bull range and trying to move into a new bull range on the daily. UFO is one that caught my eye. PHO is a pullback play that started to move back higher. BDRY is pulling back now. This is the bulk dry shipping. This has been a story for a while, so it may want to come back and retest this zone in here, probably 28 to 30 area. PKB is the construction ETF. It looks like it's actually almost a wedging type scenario that's trying to look at breaking above this downtrend line right here. The weekly or the daily is moving into new RSI bull range. The weekly never lost its bull range. XAR is the equal weight. Defense pulled back further, but looks like it's got a base it's trying to move out of right here. Could have some potentially good opportunity up to that 130 level or further. And then PIO, another water ETF. Now let's move into the subsectors. The first subsector we're going to look at is the industrial goods. We're going to do these by ranking, and this one again has ranked higher or moved up higher than the transportation sector at this point. As you can see, on versus all the other subsectors, its rankings in the 3 months 80, in the 88 for the 6 month, and 88 for the 1 year, which is pretty strong, and it's already moved into new highs. It's already broke out. RSI is up in the 70 level, which again doesn't scare us, but many people it does scare off at that point. To me, it looks like it's just really starting to make this move, but notice how it was kind of a running correction anyway over the last few months. Breadth continues to improve on this one, 83%, 79% above the 50, and then 76% above the 200. Remember, you can go back and look at all these at powerinvesting.com, power-investing.com. And so as we move up here on the summation index, making a move above zero. Again, strength continues to progress in this particular area. This is the one that is showing some relative comparative strength versus the universe, industrials in general. The SPY has leveled off some up here near these highs, but like it could want to break out QQQ, and it's already broken out versus the IWM. Also noting the new highs, new lows. Notice how it kind of bottomed here back in the early September area. A lot of clustering here in these big bottoming type scenarios. And then the last month, when other stuff had some weakness, it hasn't been weak at all and continued to climb, building new highs on all three levels. Here on the 63-day level, it's getting up to areas we haven't seen since back here in the May-June time frame. So if we can progress back above this, it could be another move higher, ready to continue. In this particular one, we also have our rankings down here. As with all of them, I pulled out some that I think are worth taking a look at. Some looks like they've already broken out and might need a back test or a little bit of consolidation, but they are worth keeping your eye on considering where everything sits. RUSHA is the first one. Earnings has already had a good move off of earnings, but looks like it's trying to make a major breakout here with some good volume. I think this one looks strong and a good potential still. AER is one also here that is looking to want to break out of a larger weekly pattern, daily and weekly RSI and bull ranges, and the daily just recently moved above these recent highs. ROP looks like it tried to break out and couldn't get all the way, but that would have been a really big move, so it may take a few days, but let's keep an eye here. URI is up near the breakout as well, kind of like a running wedge, but it can break out the top or the bottom, so keep your eyes open. FAST is up near a breakout zone. RSI bull range on the daily, a fresh one, and the weekly looks like it had a positive reversal here, looking to try to move higher. TGH also breakout. We got some pretty big weekly tails, so keep your eyes there. Now on most of these you need to keep your eyes out for earnings. I'm not posting whether it is or not on all of these. I'll try to mention it on some, but not on everything. WSO looks like it's up near the highs for potential breakout. TRTN looks like an internal type breakout look. RSI in a new bull range. Weekly looks like it never lost its bull range. AL, again, almost more of a basing action. It's pulled back pretty heavily on the weekly. But RSI trying to hold that 40 level. UNVR, DXPE, BECN. BECN looks like a nice sideways pullback here on the daily. Popped above 60 for a new RSI bull range, and the weekly never lost the 40 area. GATX, another one we want to look through here. Looks like it had some basing action, tried to move out, and now it's closing the gap and back testing here at earnings. FTAI looks like it wants to do a potential reversal basing action. Look where it has some polarity here. If we can get over this area, it can climb back up the right side. IEP also looking like it could climb back up the right side potentially. GWW has come a good bit off the lows, may want to move sideways for a minute, but it's trying on this weekly after holding the 40 to move back over that 60 area. TITN also looks like a potential reversal type look. Let's go back to that one. RSI is right at 60, needs to continue to move, but look where the weekly held here at the 40 level, right at the 45 EMA in its previous zone. MRC is another one that we have here on kind of the pullback area and moved back up to that big heavy volume here on the left and then got rejected. We'll see if we can base out here in this and try to move back over that 912 area. CSL breaking out, that one maybe a little bit, that one's not marked. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one is transportation sector we want to go through. You can see here as we look at this chart again, has already broken out and broke out weeks ago and then has moved sideways. Remember what I said earlier, so many people were talking about IYT trailing and all of this because UPS and FedEx, two of the larger holdings in there, are having some problems, and then your railroads were kind of moving sideways. But here it showed that this started way back in the July area, moving off those lows pretty strongly, and transportation has been a leader since then. Its RSI bull range shifted way back in August and has never lost the 50 area since. So transportation has not lagged as much as I heard during August and somewhat early October. Now, as you can see on the breadth side, it's starting to improve again. It did come back around that 50 area, but never really lost it. The 50-day moving average are all bouncing off the 50, and same with the 20-day moving average. Again, none of these are big runners. It seems to be moving sideways more than anything, but it already made a big move off the lows, and now it's kind of digesting it. From the same thing, you can see it on the relative comparative. Big move off the lows, and now it's kind of moved sideways to back on all these, but looks like it might be wanting to level back off. And then the new highs this week here on the right chart, you can see the new highs is starting to move higher as the new lows start to kind of disappear a little bit. Again, not as impressive as the industrial goods sector we just went through. As we said with transport, they've already been moving for a good bit, and so we're going to look here at some of these that have potential larger breakouts, but many of them, like Landstar here, have already moved really big in the last few days, so might need some time to kind of settle in before they make the major breakouts, but they're still on that watch. NSC is there as well. Ryder, big moves already, CSX, KSU, but they all are set up here towards these highs and have the potential and the room in RSI to continue to move higher. CHRW is another one, moved really fast recently, but has a larger weekly breakout here on the potential horizon and plenty of room on RSI if it wants it. AAWW, ARCB. Now Ryanair, I'm not sure why it's on this one, maybe because of this larger consolidation here, but after this move down over the last week into earnings, I would probably move it with the other airlines, as you'll see here in a bit, that were pretty rough. WRN looks like it's come hard off the lows, but right up back up here near this larger weekly breakout area. DSKE, kind of more of an internal looking breakout right above this big volume area, and it could continue on up towards those higher around 14, 15. XBO is more of a kind of the internal. It's pulled back, moved hard into just above this volume area here, and there's just not a whole lot of volume up here to keep it down if it wants to continue to catapult higher into this larger breakout. Zone ASR is another one that basically is kind of an internal breakout on the weekly, even though it's ran hard on the daily. So we might want to see it pull back around the 194, 195 breakout area. See if it can retest. But as you can see, on the weekly, it's just now moving over 60 again. And if it can kind of break out of this downtrend type area, get over maybe this 210 area. NMM, another one, kind of an internal looking type move on the weekly. If it can get above this big volume area, there's just nothing else there above. ZTO, it's come back down, pretty volatile, violent type look, but here on the daily, even though it's sloppy, it's kind of held around in this zone. So if it can get above the 32 area. CMRE is kind of your traditional pullback going into earnings. RLGT, looks like it wants to kind of a base out reversal play. RSI moving into a new bull range, and the weekly never lost its bull range. UAL also kind of pulling back with RSI holding here right after earnings, and the weekly never losing its bull range. That's good for an airline. NM, also kind of a basing type action. EXPD is a pullback type play, looking like it wants to reverse after this failed breakdown. Go back to that one. Okay, strong move on Friday, but it does have earnings coming up. UPS been moving higher back into the gap. Again, has helped the transport IYT ETF a lot, but XTN was already moving higher. Hard move by CP. Forward, kind of a reversal type play here going into FWRD. ULH, reversal type play. MRTN, looks like it's come out of kind of a double bottom type action on the daily, being right up against this downtrend line on the weekly. So a move over 17 could be strong for MRTN. ASAK, okay, also this weekly looks like a cup with kind of a handle. RSI never lost its bull range on the weekly, and the daily just ran up strong. Now we do have earnings, so you might want to wait till that plays out. But let's look at some airline type and some transport stuff that's not looking so good. ATSG looks like it's pulled back and has rolled over here below 40 in kind of, or below 60 in kind of a bear range type area. So this one could lose this volume area, work its way on down towards the bottom in the 20 range. Save, an airline that looks pretty bad. Looks like it wants to kind of roll over here on the daily and the weekly into earnings. JetBlue, similar look, breaking a bear flag on the weekly. Delta Airlines, breaking a bear flag on the weekly. ALGT, Allegiance Travel, breaking a bear flag on the weekly. LUV, similar, except for it's already down the lows, broke the bear flag already. SKYW, also kind of working its way out of this kind of run up bearish type area. You can see it came right to 60, rolled over, so it's in the bear range still, and the daily bull range here is about to test the 40 level in the earnings. So I don't know that I want to short it, but I'm not sure how long I'd want to be either. AAL, American Airlines, is here during the bottom of this range and looks like it could potentially break down with a reversal there. ALK also looks pretty nasty after this bear flag broke down. So the airlines are not the area you want to be in. Next, we want to move on to commercial and professional services. This one also right up near the highs, but has not broken out of the September highs yet. But again, it's not in as much of a rounding base as the overall sector is. The RS relative strength versus all the other subsectors is in the 50s. Been kind of muddling along. RSI is still has crossed 40 since it's crossed 60, so we want to see it pop back above here. And then the breadth is also again muddling. 58% above the 200-day moving average, 65% above the 50-day, and 68% above the 20-day. Summation never got down to zero, so then it's turned up. So again, intermediate signals are there, and when you look at the advanced decline line here, it's right up at the highs. So there's nothing here that's super negative for this particular subsector. It's just sideways. But notice here, you kind of have this channeling here around these percent making new highs and making new lows continues to climb and make progress. And progress is the biggest thing we want to see with breadth, both short and long term. Now down here we can do our rankings, and again, remember we can sort them in all the different ways, and I do this a lot just to kind of see from different views which one is leading and why. Now I've already pulled out those as usual, and here we can see Equifax is one that on earnings, a beat, it dropped down and now it's trying to crawl back up. This could want this larger breakout here sooner than later, the way this RSI is looking here and the way it popped over 60 on that side. Next is HCCI, right up near the potential breakout level for daily and weekly. Fairly small company with fairly light volume, but it's something that could have a longer runway if it gets above this cup and handle. ICFI, right up near the highs on this cup with a high handle on the weekly. WCN breaking out already on the daily, just above it though, and you can see we're going right into earnings. That's the rub. TBI, nice little base or nice little consolidation above this potential breakout or the breakout. Weekly RSI in a nice bull range, daily pulling back right to 60. Really pretty looking setup right there. IHS right at the breakout zone, weekly RSI bull range and a new positive reversal. FC, another breakout look here, a little bit more below, but it's above this big weekly, so consolidating after breaking out on the weekly time frame. VRSK, looks like it might have a daily reversal candle, but if we got a back test down here to 208, 206 to 209, it'd be worth taking a look at, seeing if it can hold over on this weekly level like that 206, 207 area. This weekly RSI bull range looks really nice. TRI is one that looks like it has pulled back and come right up to the highs, looking ready for another leg. CRPT, Copart, is right up at the highs this weekly. A little sloppy here in the middle, but it really started to come on here, and earnings are already past us for the moment. RDBT, right up near the highs there as well for breakout potential. FCN, it's come back and forth here. Notice that it's all the way back to April 2020, and then it came back up this early this year and has just moved sideways in a range. If we can get above that range, it could get a nice move from this one. Back test on K-Force after breaking out and coming back. Earnings coming up though, so something we might want to pay attention to. RELX, Upwork, WK, nice daily consolidation here just below these highs, but it's been rejected twice, so you got to make sure you're aware of that. MARA, up near that area. Bitcoin proxy. VSEC, internal breakout look, looks like it wants above this 50-30 area. TW, again, looks like it's broken in this little pullback area. The weekly continues to remain strong. TRU, SCI, again, nice internal breakout going right into earnings, just below the weekly and all-time highs. RBA, again, internal looking breakout. Tile, ASGN's a pullback type play. As you can see, the daily's just pulled back into the RSI bull range. Weekly can stay strong. EXPO, daily's pulling back after some sideways from well overbought right to the 40 holding the bull range, now trying to turn back up, getting back above the moving averages. HSII, BV is one that's a basing type action. Looks like it can move above 1625 to 1650. HNI moving above this level right here, the 40 level. Could get this one back into gear. New RSI bull range here, weekly held. MSA is another one that's basically pulled back and started to work back high. ML HR, big pullback, but the weekly came right to the bull range and now wants to try. Daily is not there yet, so realize that as you're taking a look. And this looks like it's breaking down Manpower Group on both the daily and the weekly. Could certainly see a good bit lower on this one, down into that a big area, this gap down here in the high 70s. Our next is Aerospace. With Aerospace, you can see it's more of the pullback. We covered this a few weeks ago on just a subsector as far as an emerging looking, and it looks like it does continue to want to kind of emerge out of this. Our new RSI bull range here, since we talked about it, breadth continues to improve. The percent above the 200 day is moving sideways, but the two shorter ones are moving higher, which is a good sign from a progressive standpoint. We are losing some relative comparative here, so it did, like, again, stall a little bit, as I said. But let's see if it can pick back up if the sector gets some attention. Not such a huge sector that we can't work through these real quick. Again, I've already marked a few. RTX is one that's kind of already gone, but again, it's just above this larger daily breakout and right up against the weekly breakout, which is a bigger move, both in RSI bull ranges going into earnings. Textronics is also right up against its breakout level going into earnings. CAE is below, kind of more of an internal type breakout area. HII looks like it just broke out of a basing area and then got a nice little sideways consolidation. Weekly looks like it's in its bull range, moving back above 60. HEI, that was HII. HEI also looks like it's got this little internal move, moving up towards the highs here. Is kind of, you got your handle for the potential cup and handle breakout. Weekly never got below the RSI bull range, now trying to move back over 60. Curtis Wright, right up near the internal breakout, or big daily breakout here, but when we zoom out here on the weekly, we can see it's more of an internal breakout right here at the 60 level. Plenty of room on the oscillators if they wants to move. TDG, also kind of the internal breakout look. AXON, similar. XXL in a pullback type zone on the daily right to the 40 level. ERJ pulling back with earnings coming up, potentially putting in an RSI positive reversal. BWXT, kind of a basing action, looks like it wants to potentially reverse. We're going into earnings, so I don't know if it can happen beforehand, but we'll keep an eye on it. AIR is also kind of a pullback basing area, nice strong move. Earnings are already past us. It's got plenty of room up here to build on the right side. Weekly RSI is still in the bear range, but the daily's moving into a fresh bull range. Nice volume breakout Friday. PSN, also one that looks like it's a basing action, trying to kind of reverse. Daily in the new RSI bull range, or trying to move into one. Weekly not there yet, so be careful there. ARNC looks like it could potentially be breaking down. The daily continues to kind of, RSI was weak here on this last attempt and rolling over. The weekly's coming right down to 40. We'll see if it can hold or not. Next one is the construction materials sector. Again, we got two more to go through, and I know I'm moving fast, but I'm trying to keep these in reasonable time frames. As you can see here, the RS is just now starting to move up versus the other subsectors. It kind of came down, has been basing out here, and hasn't really moved higher, but we've got a downtrend line right here that we can look at and see where we might be looking to come to here as far as to test. So see, we're right up below all of that. So we think we could have a potential breakout here. RSI moving into a fresh bull range. We move on down to the breadth. You see the 79% above the 20-day moving average, and just now 50% moving above the 50 and 55% above the 200-day. So plenty of runway there. McClellan summation just now moving back above zero after kind of that double bounce area like many sectors and subsectors saw. We're seeing a curl up here in our relative strength comparatives. This is something that can be important to catch early. And now what we want to see it do is continue to progress and break these downtrend lines that we have on versus some of these comparisons that we use. Nice new highs jumping up here near the 50% as far as 10-day. So this really might be an emerging one that we want to keep our eye on, the construction materials, after taking some time off after being so strong last year. Again, not a huge sector, 70, maybe 70, 80-ish, somewhere in that range. I marked a few. AMRC moved hard recently, but right up to these highs. Could keep going or could move sideways for a few days and consolidate. NYRG right at the breakout level. PWR right at the breakout level. RSI bull range in both daily and weekly both look strong. BBCP also kind of an internal breakout look. ACM right up above this internal breakout back near the highs. RSI weekly just now moving back above 60, daily just above 60 as well. CSWI also in this consolidation right before the major breakout. JCI pulled up back and has now moved back right up near those highs. Kind of in the middle here, but it's something you want to keep your eye on because this is a strong name in its space. ROAD, very small, $1.7 billion company. Looks like it's bunching up. There's no catalyst that I know of here just yet, so keep an eye here, but this one does not have a history of moving super fast. SSD looks like it's bunching up near the highs. AON is the internal breakout. As you can see, it came off and kind of based, pulled back, and now it's back above that high and trying to move out from there. JELD is also kind of a double bottom type action up here on the daily. But see down here on the weekly, as you can see, it's up above where this basing and pullback action is. So if we can move back up towards this trend line around 29 or so. UFPI, big move and tough day Friday. So you may want to see if it comes back and holds this 78 area. AWI is a pullback. Looks like it wants to reverse. Earnings right in front of us and RSI right at the 60 level. DOOR. Looks like it's kind of basing and reversing here. Have probably another month until you get to earnings, and the weekly never lost its bull range or the 45 EMA for the most part. Daily's moving back above both moving averages. AZEK, again, this one's a little early, but I like the way it held the weekly here and the daily trying to move ahead of price. EME. Another one that kind of has the pullback, long drawn out pullback here on the daily, weekly flag coming back in the middle of RSI. So if it can pop back above 60 on the daily RSI and above this big volume area over here on the left, it could continue to move from here. MAS, again, it's pulled back and then it made a new lower low and had kind of a failed breakdown. Now it's getting ready to test the top of this range at 63. DY is another one that's kind of a basing action looking to move above it, and its earnings was just about a little over a month and a half ago, so we got a good time till then. I like that chart. APOG, kind of a reversal type chart as well. Basing action. ACA, kind of a basing action, however it is going into earnings. LII, Linux is one that's pulled back. It's an air conditioning, a lot of good business there. Nice top, bottom type polarity action. Looks like it's moving off it on the weekly and holding the 40 FBS. We're right at earnings there. FBHS, sorry, we're right at earnings there as well. Looks like it's trying to reverse off its pullback. PGTI, similar. And Trex is one that is down here near the lows. Looks like it had a failed breakdown. It's trying to come back up and hold. We'll see if we can move higher this week. If it can, and you can get over probably either Friday's high or even make it go over Wednesday's high if you want, you could see a good run up the right side here into its next set of earnings. And then from the pink, so potentially short, is OC. I don't know if I'd short this one into earnings, but as you can see, it's kind of stair-stepping down. It's holding right here at the 40 for now, but the daily has been pretty poor as of recent. Final sector is machinery. Hasn't been the best relative strength performance, but is starting to curl up here versus the other subsectors. It is the worst in the space, but also trying to move over into new RSI bull range. And again, worse in the space, it's still pretty much just a sideways move since way back in March. Nothing drastically down, just sideways. And now it's starting to perk back up. Its breadth wants to improve. 82% of these are above the 20-day moving average. So that's a nice, strong, thrusty type move there. We'll just see if the other two can catch up. Breadth on the advanced decline line is just still a good bit below the highs. So there's definitely work to do here. The relative comparatives here are starting to turn up. just over the last week and a half. So this is something definitely to keep an eye on and see how we also progress as far as the percent making new highs over here. As you can see, the percent making 63-day new highs is still really low. So it's just there's not much of a push here so far other than just the shortest time frames, which is where everything starts. So the ones we have marked are ones that look like they have an opportunity here. TRS, again, earnings could be close, as with this one, in a couple of days, so keep an eye on that. TRS has a big weekly pattern looking like it's moving back in above 60 on the bull range, and then the daily moved above 60 after holding in the 50 area on this last pullback. It's like this could be a solid breakout, but be careful with earnings. Federal Signal, FSS, also looks like it's moving out of a basing area back up towards these highs for potential breakout look. IEX, it has a little more room to go to where it gets up there, but I didn't really know how to categorize it, but did want to point it out. IR is up near the highs for potential breakout. LACO already broke out. Let's see if this back test can hold, because the rest, the RSI and all this looks pretty solid. RSI bull range and positive reversal right here in the last few weeks. FELE breakout look really looks like it could, but it's right into earnings. TRN looks like it's got this internal breakout look. Weekly RSI is right below 60, bunched up. Daily, nice positive reversal right here, going into the potential for this breakout. It did already have earnings and beat. It kind of got rejected on that, so let's see if it can get back above this 30 area. CNHI, also internal looking breakout. NPO, same type of action. DOV, also kind of an internal little tight consolidation below these highs, could catapult you up through that kind of area. RSI just moving over 60, and the weekly putting in a positive reversal. TNC, again, that little internal breakout potential here going into earnings next week, I think it is. WAB, MWA, LXFR, this one also kind of tightening up here above this 2150 area, earnings right in front of us. KMT, already moved out of that little range, but it's kind of back testing look. Whether it fails or holds could be important. GBX, this one kind of caught my eye because this way this weekly curled up, and the RSI daily just moved into a new bull range after being rejected there quite a few times. So if we can close this gap and hold somewhere in this area and turn back up, it could be very solid action. KRNT, again up near the highs for potential internal breakout that could catapult it up towards those all-time highs. PNR is kind of the pullback type play. Basing action here. Boom, BOOM, big day Friday, but after earnings, even a miss. So if it moves out of here, that could be the markets telling us that they have different plans for this one. Otis also looks like a basing action that's turning here right into earnings. PCAR looks like it's already moved out of that double bottom and now has consolidated in a flag and wants to move higher into earnings though. CMI, kind of basing action, could be turning ahead of earnings. WNC is another one that looks like it's basing out and wants to try to move higher. Look how the weekly never lost RSI bull range. Daily wants to pop over the 60. Make it do it, though, before you commit. Because if it gets rejected there, it could roll back over on the weekly as well. MTOR, kind of basing action. This one already got up over the 60s, pulling back. Be a little cautious, but as long as it can hold somewhere over this 24 area, maybe the 45 EMA on that blue line, could be worth an eye. ITW on a pullback type action. It's going to come up against this trend line soon or base out here where this big volume area is. Weekly looks like it wants to try to reverse. Daily's in a new fresh bull range where we're about to go into earnings, so I don't think I'd take that shot beforehand. PH is one that's still in the weekly bull range, but the daily hasn't crossed yet. Make sure it pops over this area. CAT, pretty big pullback on this one below this area, so it needs to get over probably this 205 area before we get very interested. But this weekly pullback looks really interesting, wedging right into the RSI bull range here. Daily got rejected first time, but if it could turn back up, earnings might be the catalyst here, so it might be hard to get on ahead of it unless you have some kind of an earnings play you want to work with. Toro is a bigger pullback. It's just below the 40 level, but I like this company a lot, so I give a little benefit of the doubt. I'd want it to pop back over Friday's highs before anything. Earnings are already passed, so as long as we get there, we might move back up and test this 105 area and then see where we can go. GGG is one that looks like it's come off at the hard after the earnings. But on this weekly, you've got a nice pattern held at 40 and a fresh bull range starting on the daily. OSK. Oshkosh is one that is coming to nice, strong weekly pullback here right to the 40 level. Daily still in an RSI bear range, so we want to see it pop over probably this 108 level before we start looking at this one more serious. Deer, another one that has pulled back right to the bottom of this big weekly range. RSI is still in the bull range. Daily is not. The weekly is. So we want to see it get over maybe this 350 area where this volume is kind of bunched up here on the left side. To see if it can get back into the higher zone of this range. From the short side, you have L&N. Lindsay Corp looks like it's kind of breaking down here on the weekly. It's right at 40, so it could hold in reverse, but if it doesn't, then it's in trouble, it looks like to me. B, Barnes Group has been kind of rolling over on the daily right here ahead of earnings. Looks like it could break down. Hard to tell in front of earnings, though. So just a couple that look like they were a little bit weaker than a lot of other areas. That's going to wrap up this week's review of the industrial sector in our weekly drill down. Feel free to come by the website, take a look yourself, and look for a new video next week. As always, I hope it helps.